Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, my name is Jim Hoover. I live at 3150 East Devils Lake Road. I'm a property owner in the City of Lincoln City and have a business in the City of Lincoln City also. For those who are taking time to watch this either on their computer or live this evening, we had a very significant event that happened this week that I'm imagining didn't have a chance to make it into the agenda since the agenda is published ahead of time. And that significant event that happened was that the Ethics Board over in the state of Oregon actually had a chance to review the ethics complaint that, as I understand it, had about 500 pages of included documentation. It was a 26-page long ethics complaint filed by the City Council minus the Mayor, and Roger Sprague is the Council President, and our City Attorney. And I'm not sure I'm going to get the exact wording right, but I was glad to hear that the Ethics Board voted 5-0 to throw out the complaint and basically said there wasn't merit to it. And so while I didn't make it on the agenda tonight, I'm assuming that at some point some city councilor will make a motion that we publicly apologize to the mayor for the grief that he's been put through with this part of the process. And while you can't make right the time that it's taken or the energy it's taken or the emotion that's taken, I think it would be a stand-up thing to do to say we apologize for filing a complaint against one of the people on our city council, and we apologize for the actions of our attorney, who obviously was in error in his counsel to the city council in filing this ethics complaint as judged by the ethics division. Number 2, stuck way in the budget, supplemental budget, there's a request that I'll be speaking to the public hearing part, but just so I have enough time, I'll talk about it right now. There's an additional request of $30,000 requested by the attorney to fund outside legal fees or outside attorneys. And while I still haven't heard from the council or from anybody else how much we spent on this ethics complaint or on the second item that I believe is still running, which is the hiring of a private investigator to also see if they can somehow find something that our mayor has done wrong. When I first saw the $30,000 request for additional funding, the first thing that came to my mind, it was a lot like when I had young children and they broke their piggy bank open and went down to the store and bought a bunch of candy and then came to me and said, I've used all my money for candy, now I need more money. And I looked at him and said, it sounds like a pretty poor choice to break your piggy bank open and spend all your money on candy and not have any money for the things you want to buy right now. And so I would encourage the City Council, I'll be talking to the public hearing part of this also, to, I would encourage the City Council to, instead of rewarding the City Attorney for spending money on something that was unfounded, thereby giving him more money, which I didn't see what it was allocated for or see the need for, or really see a justification for why the money that was allotted in the budget wasn't adequate for the full year. I would encourage you to, at that point, say we're not going to approve this supplemental budget and give you more money to use. The third item is our new council member, Mr. Anderson, and welcome to the council, has made the comment several times that the people spoke when they voted down the ordinance or the two ordinances with regards to VRDs that the council passed. And I would like to clarify that when people vote a referendum, they in fact take what the council has passed and say no. They don't have the opportunity to actually make statements or add anything to that referendum. And so for the council to say, because people voted down something that was long and cumbersome, because I've heard people say that they voted against it just simply because they couldn't understand it or they thought that it was too complex. I've heard people say they voted it down because they didn't agree with it. And I've heard people say they didn't vote because they didn't understand it at all. And so to conclude that the people spoke and they want us to enforce the existing ordinance, which said accessory use that was being interpreted for the last years as whatever somebody asked for, even in excess of 180 days, then to come back and say, well, now that the people have spoken, we're going to affect the economy of the City of Lincoln City and the budget of the City of Lincoln City by reducing what was being practiced by the City of Lincoln City down to 90 days is a big assumption. And so for the people watching on TV, I agree. I don't think that's why you voted, and I don't think we can make that assumption. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jim.
Mayor Anderson, members of the council, Jim Hoover again.
You did it. You did it. Mayor Williams.
Mayor Anderson, Mayor Williams.
Yeah, I knew it was going to happen sooner or later.
Second Vice President Anderson.
We won't call him junior counselor.
Williams, with all due apologies. Members of the council, it must be getting late. 3150 East Devils Lake Road is my address, Jim Hoover. I started to hear the appropriate question I think that should be asked, but I wasn't sure I heard the answer. I guess I heard part of an answer, and that is, why are these additional appropriations needed? And I don't see in the information that was available on the public packet how these are as a percentage of the overall budget. So if we're asking for a $700,000 increase in an improvement, water, street, whatever it might be, did we already allocate $700,000, and are we 100% off in that budget line item? And I think that speaks towards, the wise use of our money, or the people that we have using our money, because I understand in construction, being in construction, that you might have a 5 or 10% cost increase due to weather, or due to some condition that you find under the soil, or an increase in a product or a price, or some design change due to circumstances. But if you have a 100% increase, then it starts falling into the range of somebody missed the budget amount that they requested with this item, whether it was the engineer or the staff in the city of Lincoln City who put together an estimate, but somebody missed an estimate. And I don't see anywhere in these papers that we have available to us where there's a reference to how much we're off and why we need this extra money, whether it's a 5%, a 2%, a 15%, or 30%. Now, the one that I was able to look at, because it's not combined with a bunch of other items and it's easy to find in the budget, is the item referenced in the $30,000 of additional outside legal services that are being requested by the city attorney. And so I quickly pulled up, thanks to technology, the city budget. And the city budget on page 12 gives the city attorney amounts, and it shows last year and this year. And then I went to some of the other places, and on page 12 of the budget, if I can find it here, it says the total budget for the city attorney is $248,278. This is a 13.4% increase over the previous year, or $29,700. Then I went to page 42, see if I can flip to 42 here really quick, since I don't have a budget sitting in front of me. And on page 42, it actually shows a breakdown of the costs that we have in that line item. And I believe, if I'm looking at this correctly, in the previous budget year, we had $12,000 for outside legal services. And this year, we have a line item of almost $30,000 in the present budget. We're asking for another $30,000 over that line item. So that would be a 500% increase in legal services. Somebody said, is this a black op budget? Because we really don't know what we're spending these legal services on, these outside services. But I would suggest, if we're asking for a 500% increase, that the general public, the citizens of Lincoln City, deserve to know what their city attorney or what their city council is spending this 500% increase over last year. Now, it references in the thing, I think it says something legal regarding public meetings. And I've never heard anything in a public meeting talked about, so I have to assume this is something involving an executive session. So is this defense of something that happened in an executive session? And if it is, then I'd like it referenced correctly on the budget, since we're dealing with a 500% increase. Please look at this very closely. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it. Welcome back.
See if I can redeem myself, Mayor Williams.
Thank you.
And members of the council. I've been asking for a couple of weeks now how much we're spending on this investigation, which is in addition to the ethics complaint, I think, that the attorney spent time filing. And I believe what I heard tonight is that we've spent or budgeted $25,000 so far to try to find something based on my conversation with the attorney who interviewed me, that we could somehow hold against the mayor so that you could do something which you haven't said. I'm just really shocked. And while I respect Mr. Noriakis, or Councilman Noriakis' attempt to put it in a budget line item that didn't look like the attorney was spending the money, to the citizens of the city of Lincoln City, I don't think they really care what line item it comes out of. The reality is the city council, either by direct vote, has authorized, or indirectly by the expenses that are ongoing, because I haven't heard this talked about prior tonight, is planning on spending, or has already spent, or is willing to spend $25,000 to try to find something that you can pin on the mayor so that you can, say you shouldn't do it? Last week I spoke about the chilling process of what you're doing. And I think when people on TV realize that if they ran for office and they don't get along, as in don't agree with, the majority, that they might have a similar investigation voted on by 4 or 5 or 6 members of the council, the chilling effect that I'm talking about is becoming really obvious. And we don't know whether you're going to spend $25,000 or authorize another $25,000 or authorize another $25,000, because we really don't know what it is you're trying to accomplish. We don't know what you've authorized. I just know that the attorney who asked to interview me said it was a broad in scope investigation to determine whether he could find anything that the mayor had done that would have violated a city council rule or a Lincoln City ordinance. Wow. I asked people all this week, to try to help me find the term other than witch hunt, and so far nobody's come up with an appropriate term. And you guys probably don't like that term. You guys probably don't like hearing me say it. I'm open to what you would suggest. Apparently, Mr. Noriakis earlier decided that even though the Ethics Committee, threw out the complaint and said there wasn't validity, he thinks there's somehow a responsibility to try to find something. And so maybe that's the case with this too. And I'm hoping to see, who might respond to these comments also, because it's always curious to see, who is the quickest to react by what I'm saying. But the point I'd really like to make for anybody who's still watching the City Council meeting is that the City Council right now appears to have authorized or has already expended $25,000 to instigate or conduct an investigation, and that may not be all the money you choose to spend. And at the same time, we decided not to spend $2,500 to fill an empty council seat. Just seems to me like some real strange priorities when it comes down to the expenditures of money. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.